Hi everyone. In this video I am going to show you how to find resources for your annotated bibliographies in the first instance. I'm going to show you a database where you can find scholarly research on everything, all matters related to media, and I'm going to show you how to take an idea that you have for a research topic and how to begin to turn it into a research project by finding relevant academic literature. And the reason why we need to find relevant academic literature is that reading what people have already written about your research topic helps you to figure out what is at stake in your research topic. What is it about? You may have a faint interest in researching something, but at this stage of things, you're not really going to be entirely sure what's involved in your topic. You might have a sense that something is interesting, but why that topic is interesting, what it says about how media influence the world, what it says about how media industries operate, isn't entirely clear to you. And that's exactly where you should be right now, because if you already had the answers to your research questions, there wouldn't be any point in doing research. And the other thing I want to note is that people get very worried about two things. Firstly, they get worried if they decide on a research topic and they find out there's already been quite a lot written about it. So they think, oh, there's nothing else to write. It's good if you find a research topic that there's a lot written about, because that means there's a lot of ideas that you can engage with that are already out there. And what you're trying to do is engage with those ideas and engage with the research that already exists. It's also good if you find something that hasn't been researched that much. But what that does mean is you have to be a little bit more creative in terms of thinking, well, what is this research topic actually about? And I'm going to show you an example of how that works. I'm going to do two videos. And I'm going to start off by, and they're both based on videos on research topics that you have asked me about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and model the process that everyone needs to go through in taking the first step to find the resources that you're going to use for your annotated bibliography. So I had a question about someone who was wanting to do research on King Arthur movies. What are King Arthur movies, I hear you ask? Well, so it's based on a British legend, really. It is said there are folk tales that posit that there was as it says down here on Wikipedia, there was a kind of a medieval English king. He probably wasn't even English. He was probably, if he existed at all, he probably existed around the southwest of England, and so he was probably, if he existed at all and was the king of anything, he was sort of the king of southern England. But there's been there's a legend about this famous king who protected England from the Saxons, and his story has been told over and over again over the last several decades in film, and you can see up here pretty much every decade almost has a film about King Arthur. Oh, this is the best one, by the way, Excalibur, 1981. But a range of different movies about King Arthur, featuring a number of really famous actors. This is the best one because it's got Helen Mirren in it, and Helen Mirren is awesome. But anyway, Sean Connery, Richard Gere. This is, what's his name, Charlie Hunnam, and this is sort of the Guy Ritchie version recently. There's been a musical version of it. This is my mother's favourite. This is from 1967 with an actor called Richard Harris. But you see something else that's kind, there's been Disney versions and all that sort of thing. But you'll notice something else if you kind of scroll through all these movies. You'll see how different versions of the story feature different characters in the story. So there are several characters in this particular story. There's King Arthur, but there's also his one of his loyal knights called Sir Lancelot, and Lancelot becomes the main character in some of these stories here and here. He also has a court wizard called Merlin, and Merlin is the focus of many of the stories. So the relationship between Arthur and Merlin, and also, of course, very importantly, King Arthur's wife is called Queen Guinevere, and she is the focus of this film from 1994. We see there are kind of spoofs of the whole story. This is one featuring Bing Crosby. So it's a story that's been told over and over again using many different perspectives through time. So we have a question from someone who's kind of interested in, why is this story told over and over again? And that's actually a really, really good question, because it is a story that's appealed over the decades. But one of the things that we see from these images is, there's even a comedy about loosely based on King Arthur. One of the things we see is that this is a story that's been told over and over again, but always in a slightly different way. So that means that it's a story that means different things, and probably what it means that it's appealed to different audiences. It's appealed to the film industry at different times in its development. So it's a similar story, which is constantly, how would you say it, kind of being reinvented to suit new times and new audiences and new industrial needs as well. So it is a really interesting thing to start to research. So how could we kind of unpack what it's about? Because what we need to find academic research that's going to just give us a few more clues about how to organize our conversation about why the King Arthur movies matter. So the most obvious thing to do, this is the first thing that everybody needs to do. We go to the library, because reading is everything. And that's not helpful, so we'll do it a different way. Normally if you click on that, that will work. But let's do it a different way. Go, Monash University Library, because I'm there all the time. Okay, so we click on here. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go here and you type in Communications and Mass Media Complete, and you hit search. Takes you here. Okay, so we want to click on this database. And here we are. So this is a database that will give you access to the most up-to-date, peer-reviewed research in media studies, and that's what you want. You want research written by academics, which has been thoroughly peer-reviewed, rigorously tested, and so you can be pretty confident that the ideas that are being presented to you and the research that's being presented to you is pretty rigorous, is pretty trustworthy. So we've got our search terms up here, and one of the things that we need to do is learn to play around with these search terms to find stuff that we're going to help. But the first thing I want you to do is I want to make sure that you tick this box down here. We want scholarly peer-reviewed journals only. That's because by ticking this box, we make sure that we have the best chance of finding high quality research. Okay. So let's put in a couple of search terms. Let's put in King Arthur. Now, one of the things that we find is that we start off with our search terms, and you come up with you get a list of the articles that are relevant to your topic. And one of the things is we've got 15 articles, so that's not too much, but how can we begin to make sense of this? One of the things I suggest you do is make yourself an account here, because what you can do is you can begin saving these articles and sending them to yourselves. Okay, so one of the things we do is we have a look at the results that we've got here, and then if you go over here, you'll see, and you just hit on this button over here, you'll see that it provides you with an abstract, and an abstract gives you an overview of what the particular article is about. And one of the things that we see here is that almost immediately we've got a sense that indeed there's something to this idea that researching King Arthur movies is going to tell us something about the general issues in why media matter in society. So if we just read this article examines depictions of the return of kings in motion pictures. Particular focus is given to films including King Arthur and The Lord of the Rings. Additional topics discussed include issues of national identity and nationhood in contemporary Britain, Britishness, and the writings of author J.R.R. Tolkien. So this is a great start, because what it immediately tells us is that movies about King Arthur are part of, or at least scholars think, that it's part of a broader dynamic, whereby that when we're talking about movies about King Arthur, we're talking about how societies make sense of national identity. So one of the reasons why we keep getting, for example, British films about King Arthur is that King Arthur is, whether King Arthur ever existed or not, certainly the story of King Arthur is often used as a basis for discussing questions of national identity. So we're immediately told that when we're talking about particular films, King Arthur films in this case, we're looking for a broader issue that isn't about the topic in and of itself. So we're not just talking about King Arthur, we're talking about film and national identity. So this article looks like it's going to be a great thing to read, because it's going to give us a sense of how our topic relates to a broader issue. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to tick it and we're going to save it, because we know that this is probably worth reading. And then we go down here and we see this. So we go, well, actually, there's another thing, is that King Arthur might be thought of as part of a particular genre. So King Arthur movies are part of the genre of medieval movies, whatever that might be. So when we're talking about film genres, we're talking about particular sorts of films that identify particular sorts of themes and appeal to film industries because they serve a certain industrial function. So it's probably worth knowing about that. So we've kind of got the idea of King Arthur and National Identity, King Arthur as part of the genre of the medieval movie. We probably want to read that too. And hey, check this out. There's even a set of there's even a whole book about King Arthur movies. So we probably want to click that. Now this is a book review, so you want to be reading the whole book. But at least this will give us a sense of of what that book's going to find. Then we've got more things on medieval movies. You know, why are medieval movies so popular? We probably want to have that too. And that looks about it. So we've got a few things in our database, but then the other thing is maybe we want to play around with this a little bit. So if we go up here to folder, what you'll see is all of these articles are saved, and I'm going to show you what to do with those in a while. But one of the things we said is that one of the things that keeps the King Arthur story going is the fact that it's a story with many different characters, and different movies focus on different characters. And another key one is Merlin the Wizard. And check this out. Merlin goes to the movies, the changing role of Merlin in cinema Arthuriana. So here we know that actually, in some ways, based on this article, we can see that there's two things. That King Arthur movies are almost a genre in and of themselves, according to this author. But also, many of these movies feature the central character of the wizard Merlin, and that Merlin plays a distinct role in giving these stories meaning. Okay, so we want to have a look at that. And that's about that for that. But already we're up to 5 sources. So you go, now I've got a bit of a problem here because I'm up to 5 sources. Now, of course, you're probably going to go off and read these and have a look at, so for example, if we were to look at the PDF of this, some of these come directly with a PDF. And one of the things you can do is you can scroll all the way down to, just wait for this to go through. You'll find that you can also look at these bibliographies for looking at looking for more readings. But a better way to go is to ask yourself, at this stage of your project, you're going to say, well, okay, what are the broader topics related to Arthurian film that aren't specifically about Arthurian film? So you might look at something like film and national identity. Now we're cooking with gas, right? Because we can see that there are 237 movies, articles about this. Okay, so and we can begin to see that there is, again, we can look through these and kind of see that some of these articles seem to be pretty good at placing the Arthurian films in a broader context. So we can talk about, so we know that Disney made a lot of these films, and we can see from this article that that Disney is kind of interesting because it made a lot of films about British stories, and that it seems that the theme of individualism was a key theme in a lot of these stories. So we might be able to connect our topic to that. So we're going to click on that, right? And then maybe you might even want to focus on Britain in particular as a way of narrowing down this 237. And here we see that this is a more manageable kind of list. For example, this is pretty interesting. The way that James Bond films reconstruct images of British national identity. That might be worth looking at. We might want to think about the importance of national identity in the creation of the British film industry. So we might put these things in as well. So then we go up here and we find that, you know, we're getting towards it. So you can see the process that we go through. Then what you do is you decided you want to read these things. Select all. You've got a number of different options here. Probably the easiest thing to do is to email all of these articles to yourself. And what you can see is that what you should do is send all of these things, because what this will provide you with is a list of your articles with all of the abstracts, so you can kind of sit back and read them at your leisure. And it will also send you the articles themselves in PDF form if they're available. And then you've got them all on your desktop, on your laptop, wherever it is, and you're ready to start reading. And that's how you do it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to the particular student, but I'm going to stop the video here. But that's how you find your resources for your annotated bibliography. And I'm going to do another video about doing it with a different topic that's slightly less boutique, I guess. Okay, and that's how to do it.